morning, everybody. Today is Wednesday, July 13th, 2016. And this is Before the First Cup with Jules here on UCY.TV. Happy Wednesday, everyone. It is a sticky 82 degrees and very sunny here in upstate New York. We're going to get up around 90 today and tomorrow with some big thunderstorms tomorrow, they're saying. So we are in the dog days of summer. So where do we leave off yesterday? We titled the show Behavioral Monitoring, AI Algorithms, the Internet of Things, and Spying on Your Brain. We talked about a lot of very disturbing technologies, especially coming out of Israel in the University of Tel Aviv, that had designed these new electronic tattoos that can read your emotions. And then we ended the show listening to a video from Pigmine in regards to personality prediction programs that can spot troublemakers based upon your genetic facial shape. What? Yeah, like talk about absolute bizarro-ness. So your genetic facial shape, statistically speaking, utilizing algorithms and artificial intelligence, tend to predict personality traits that you have. So, I don't know, let's just guess. I don't really know any of the research, but for example, your eyes are 4.32576 centimeters apart. I don't know how far your eyes are apart, but you know what I'm saying. Or your eyebrows are. And people with eyebrows that are 4.32745 centimeters apart statistically commit crimes. Well, look, we found one on the street in our surveillance camera at the traffic light walking into the ice cream store. We talked yesterday about facial recognition programs at the FBI, where now even all your driver's license photos from, I think it's at 16 states, are being fed to the FBI regardless of whether or not you've committed any crime whatsoever. How's that make you feel? Every time that they have a crime, your face is in the rotund that one after the other starts spinning for investigators to take a peek at. Facebook also has a facial recognition algorithm. We looked at that. That is 95% effective. They said, thank goodness, because it's not the same database the FBI is using, because there's only 85% effective. Phew. Google as well has a massive facial recognition database. And don't think for 1 second that any of these large tech companies that have spent the last 10, 15 years getting you to give it up to the machine for free, don't think that any of these guys are giving that to the federal government or the spy agencies. No. Don't think that any of those multi-billion-dollar international corporations aren't using all the information that they've gathered about you to bag and tag you in their database and start finding ways to make money on you. Oh, wait, they've been doing that for a long time. Yes, here, Johnny, we got another free application for you. This time it's even better than Gmail. And I don't know what else. What else did Google come up with? Just don't buy into it, guys. Every time you give any information to the machine, regardless of who it is, and we found out yesterday too, after the executive actions that were passed after Sandy Hook happened, and I think that these finally got inked January of 2016, we read yesterday, they've now circumvented HIPAA laws, those laws that kept your health information confidential between you and your doctor unless subpoenaed by a court in investigation or trial of a crime. But they have now given the CYA pass to doctors. In this case, they were saying psychiatrists, but anyone who you might be sharing information with, anyone who might notice that you have some quote unquote psychological disorder, a doctor that you have pulled close to you as a confidant can now report you to the National Background Check System if they feel that there is something awry. And as a part of all that, your doctors have become the first line of defense for surveillance for the federal government in the See Something, Say Something program. But we discovered, don't worry about that, because that's just a transitory situation. Now, with all these facial recognition apps, these emotional tattoos, and the facial recognition personality prediction program that's going to do pre-crime. We also found out that there is I don't even know if they're a pharmaceutical company. There's some sort of back-ending pharma company called AI Cure that now has that telltale app that I predicted was coming that could surveil your actions, determine whether or not you're taking your medication, you know, the one that's prescribed to you to keep you from being crazy, Johnny, that actually surveils for people trying to circumvent the system. I think it talked about sticking it in your cheek or not swallowing, and you got to do it in front of the camera, and it spits out real-time reports to your doctors and anyone else who wants to surveil how well you are integrating into the new Internet of Things. Because remember, you, me, Nana, Johnny, Susie, we're all, Rover even, we are all going to be nodes on that new Internet of Things. Smart everything. We're going to have smart artificial immune systems one day. New York Times already talked about that. IBM's working on one. DARPA's working on one. Don't worry about it. It's coming. We also found out that even Microsoft has been tinkering with passwords that go even beyond biometrics. It's using your body language and your habits as a password, and we are all a creature of habit. And when they can start mapping our daily habits, and really this all started in the world of the Fitbit. I warned you guys about those things. And I know they'd been around for a long time, and really, if you wanted to back up the truck even a little bit more, I would say your cell phones, you know, that mobile device. And before the cell phone, we had those stupid, what were they called, personal digital assistants. I had 1.0 version from HP. Must have probably been 1996 or 7. I was the HP lead tech. I had all my service certifications. It was pretty cool. And not that it meant anything, but it was just cool to have all those paper tigers on a wall. But one of the things that I got as a benefit to that, besides lots of horrible technical support phone calls that I couldn't, like, just pass on to someone else. Oh, beep, beep, I can't hear you. I had to take them. But I would get equipment when it was brand new, like pre-release. I couldn't necessarily keep it, but I could keep it for, 6 months or a year, however long it was around. So I got my hands on one of the very, very, very first personal digital assistants out there anywhere. And I have to say the thing was probably the size of like a full old school handset on a telephone. It was long and skinny, maybe like a submarine sandwich. And it was a clamshell lid. You'd open it up, and it was, I think I would compare it like to the old days of Pong. Remember the first video game, Pong? To, today, some 3D VR crazy at 1080p. It was that much of a difference, but it was still cool to have one of the first PDAs. But now they've really become our enslaver. I was just reading that new Pokemon game. Has anybody seen something about that? I really didn't read in detail about it because all I had to know was that Pokemon Go game is being put out, and it's got all this high-end GPSing in it for geolocation. I don't know. It's like looking for, what do they call it when you go through the woods and they have all those stops in the woods all over the place on the map, geocoding or something, and people hide. There's a little box you got to find, a treasure box, and then there's, directions or something in there, and everyone marks off that they've been there. Well, they're doing something similar. You got to find people or track people down, but it's a surveillance app. There have been 5 or 6 stories that I've seen. Claire Bernesh did one as well, showing how this Pokemon Go program that has now caused Nintendo stock to go up again. My friend kept telling me I should buy Nintendo stock, and I'm like, come on, Nintendo's never going to come back. Sure enough, look, another tech company gets pulled out of the ashes. Whoop, maybe Nintendo can work for those Generation Xers like me to get us all on board. They better get Atari in the game as well. It's just frightening. You're seeing all this stuff going on. So, yeah, apparently this new Pokemon app is just another surveillance app to add to the repertoire. All the things that are out there to trick you, to suck you into the machine for them to be able to splice and dice you. Everything we look at is pretty much part of that plan. So I see, and I never got to the story yesterday. After the show, I think I found this. In the Wall Street Journal, March 26, 2016, we're talking about facial recognition. There's cameras everywhere. Yes, on top of your smart devices, you are going to have the wearable computing. That is coming very quickly. We read about those 3D printed antennas that they can put in anything, including wearable computing and small, teeny tiny little electronics. So they will be able to put sensors everywhere. They will be able to put not only biometrics and being able to read your data, but biosensors. Remember, we've talked a lot about that, this whole integration of 21st century medicine into our society to enslave us to the cellular and the DNA level. And that is exactly where it is going. Of course, they're going to sell it to us that we could live forever, and it's the cure for cancer. And oh my God, step right up. Don't listen to those tinfoil hat wearing lunatics out there like Jules telling you that there is no free lunch and the dangling carrot is poison. No, she's wrong. She's wrong. Just look at how wonderful 21st century technology is. We can keep you occupied 24/7, Johnny. You never get bored. We will keep that dopamine flowing so you can drool on the couch and eat your high fructose corn syrup and buy more. It's just disgusting. But check this out. Chinese researchers invent new police car that can scan criminals' faces. And even if you're not a criminal, it'll put that 130-point facial recognition mojo on you. I remember we saw a Pigmine video, this was probably 6-8 months back, where they were able to take a picture of you while the cop was in the car. He literally could shine this laser or whatever it was on the side view mirror where your face could be seen in the car behind him or forward, or maybe you were sitting, actually I remember how it was, you were sitting in your car, the side view mirror is showing you to the cop as he's walking up next to your car, and he could shine this thing on your reflection in the side view mirror and have it run you through the database. I saw an activist post story too. This might have been a month or so ago, about the new Homeland Security rating system that they had. They were taking different data sets and databases and correlating them together and then giving you, like they used to have for the terrorism watch after 2001, 9/11. Remember, we had no one ever paid attention to them, but they'd be like, oh, we're on yellow alert. Oh, we're on green alert. About the terror watch. And then they got rid of that whole system altogether because it was just ridiculous. Well, now they have something very similar to that for you and me, it appears. So when they bring you up on the rating system with your little dossier. Remember I told you all of us have a dossier now. I really love to do a FOIA request to some of the alphabet agencies. I thought Claire said she might have been doing that. Somebody was. I really want to find out if anyone's gotten one of those back to see what it says about you. I mean, I would almost be afraid to request my own. But on the other hand, hey, if you don't request yourself, who is? I mean, I'd rather I get it first. Not that you could do anything about it once you read the angering stuff they've written about you in private. It's like getting your hands on your doctor file. Have you ever done that? Switch doctors? And then you told them that you wanted to move your files, and they will either copy it and give it to the doctor for free, or, God forbid, you want a copy of your own file because you want to investigate whether or not that doctor was negligent in their care. Well, they don't take too kindly to that, so they're going to charge you for every photocopy they make. So it's going to cost you $50 or $60 potentially to get your whole file photocopied. But then guess what? Try and sit down and read that. I mean, number one, their writing is atrocious. You might not be able to read a lot of it, but what you can read will probably get your blood pressure up. They write lots of nasty things in there about people. They don't like when you question them, so I can just imagine what's in there in our own federal dossiers. But that might be a fun project. We could write a form letter for FOIA. I think there's probably one out there. And let's just all request. Let's get a whole movement, like a national movement, to get 1 million people doing FOIA requests on themselves. I think that would be awesome. Anyway, all right. Chinese researchers invent new police car that can scan criminals' faces. When you, and this is out of Wall Street Journal, when you're a cop in a country of 1.3 billion people, whether it be, of course, China or, India, where I think they just put that many people on their biometric cashless ID system by IBM. Brandon wrote about that last year, the year before. It's been a while, but, they've been testing mass surveillance and mass control out for quite a while now using the Internet of Things and 21st century technology. Playing hide and seek with a suspect criminal can be a daunting task, so researchers at a Chinese university say that they have a solution. And they're going to call it Drive and Seek. Drive and Seek. A team at the University of Electronic Science and Technology for China's Police Equipment Joint Research Lab, didn't know they had one of those, have developed a high-tech vehicle for police equipped with a facial recognition system that can pick criminal suspects out of a crowd, state media reported this week. The SUV, unveiled in the southwestern city of Chengdu on Wednesday, is mounted with a 360-degree rooftop camera array. That sounds like a Google self-driving car that maps all the streets. Don't they have a 360-degree rooftop camera array? I'm pretty sure they do. So they can get photos as they're driving down the street. They can get photos of the whole thing. That automatically scans faces within a 60-meter radius, according to the state-run Xinhua Daily. 60 meters, that's 380 feet. That's pretty insane. The system determines the gender, the age, and the race of each face. Then it compares it against faces stored in the police database and alerts the driver, in this case a policeman, if the match is made, all while traveling at speeds of up to 75 miles an hour, according to reports. They could be doing high-speed identifications on the expressway. Holy shit. And then imagine the future here. Let's just connect a few little dotted lines that aren't really even dotted. All I need is that Sharpie. Zoop, zoop. But how about when they identify the location, they bag and track you with your GPS location that they've made a match? That just automatically dispatches the kill drones. Or what did we just see in Dallas? The remote control robot with C4? Yeah. Or whatever it was, explosives to go blow up a criminal, quote unquote, identified criminal without a trial. Sure, why not? Those poor police are overworked anyway. So, you know what? Assassination without being able to defend yourself. I mean, I honestly, I don't see that as being a stretch of the imagination. If this can use a database to identify you against a criminal face prints and find your location while they're doing 75 miles an hour in a crowd, it almost sounds like the type of stuff that they're using in the battlefield already to identify insurgents and drop drone bombs on them. Quote, as long as you get at least 3/4 of a face, you can make an ID, says Yin Gangsquang, director of the Police Equipment Joint Research Lab, to the newspaper. He added that the system can also recognize license plates, so it's a license plate scanner, and tell you what the car type is, and can be set to scan for, quote, just one type of person, unquote. So they must have like traits that you can put in there as well. Oh my God, how frightening is this? No wonder we're getting all kind of chummy on the backside with the Chinese. And we keep seeing all these research stories. Oh, yeah, well, they're working on this and they're working on this technology. Now we're seeing it surveillance. But yesterday it was some new gene editing tech. Despite a domestic security budget on par with the country's military budget and a robust law enforcement equipment industry, China has appeared content to let its police roll around on modest wheels in most vehicles, as Mr. Yin noted in his pitch to reporters, are commercial cars lightly retrofitted for police use. Do you know how many bazillions of dollars they're going to make if they peddled this technology to the U.S.? Once the stuff of science fiction films, facial recognition increasingly is showing up in the hands of police around the world. And while its use has sparked privacy and other concerns in the U.S., the idea of face scanning police cars seems unlikely to encounter much opposition in China. And yes, and after a few good terror attacks, the United States won't hear either. And China happens to be a country already outfitted with around 100 million surveillance cameras. And I would have to say that the United States is probably pretty close there, too. I don't know. I have absolutely no idea how many surveillance cameras there are in this country. But like we were saying yesterday, we've been watching this march down this scary road of 21st century dystopia. There isn't any assumed privacy in public anymore for a long time. I mean, between the traffic cameras and the street light cameras with little microphones in them and the CCTV everywhere and all the security systems that are filming and all the cell phones and then, you know, the Google Glass that might still be out there and soon to be Google contact lenses, and I believe Sony also had one as well that would record video, no less. It's a pretty frightening thought. In addition to face scanning abilities, this vehicle, what do they call it? Face scanning police car, also has sensors in the trunk. Oh no! That will alert any officer when someone wants to get out. No, I just made that up. That will alert the officer if any of its 39 pieces of police equipment in the car have gone missing, according to TV footage of the unveiling of this car. This vehicle, and I mean, imagine, then just make these self-driving. There'll be face scanners, license plate scanners, people scanners. If you don't look Chinese, they're going to be able to pull you out in a crowd from 180 feet away at 75 miles an hour. How insane is that? If you're wearing some sort of sunglasses that make in a hat that's a little too low on your face that makes you look suspicious, you're going to be pulled out in a crowd. You know, imagine they have this in a car. What's it going to take to put this on a 180, what do we read it was? Some insane, I think it was 1.3 gigapixel Argus drone. That's what it was. That could do HD from thousands of feet in the air. How long is it going to be before we've imbued artificial intelligence and facial recognition into a drone and just cut out the police car? They can already read your license plates from satellites. I saw the Department of Defense is creating this new high-tech 3D space surveillance system, and we'll talk about that one day. I had that queued up, and then we just kind of never got to the whole space thing, but there's a lot of stuff going on, so I don't know, maybe next week we'll get to the space stuff. But the Department of Defense is taking over space like Wernher von Braun had warned us about. Don't ever let it happen. And one of the things that I was thinking about the other day, along with this and some other interview that I heard that we're going to talk about too probably next week, is we have NASA partnering with Verizon. I think we read 12 or 15 other tech companies to create the whole new drone air traffic control system that's coming as, again, all these tech billionaire companies like Facebook, like Google, are going to be launching new 5G internet balloons and internet drones into the sky to ensure that we have high-speed internet in every nook and cranny on the globe. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? It's not because we care that the Bush people in Uganda don't have internet. They couldn't give a shit. But what they do give a shit about is to make sure that there is nowhere on planet Earth that you are going to be able to run and hide. There will be no little nook of nirvana where we will be able to get away from their long arm of technology, where we'll be able to get away from becoming a node on the Internet of Things. That's why we're launching internet drones and balloons all over the continents of Africa, all over the United States, as a matter of fact. I had some research at one point when I was digging into that terahertz radiation. I mentioned that the other day, which is what the new 5G transmitters are going to be working on. We dug that up in the patent that Google had filed and in the FCC application that was then 3/4 redacted to be able to launch these new radios. But we found out the frequencies were in the terahertz range. And when I started, that was in the FCC document, when I started digging into that terahertz range, we found out a couple things. One is that range of frequency can be used to zip and unzip DNA. Oh, a lot like CRISPR, zip, zip. We found out CRISPR before it was this miraculous 21st century cure. We listened to George Church, who was the founder of all this. George Church said it was a killing machine beforehand. Whoop, we just unzip DNA. And you turn into a gelatinous mess, right? But the other thing that I found in digging into terahertz for 5G frequencies was that it was also a really good frequency for surveillance. So I should, all right, let's get organized here, Joel. I'll grab myself an index card. Not that I can write and talk at the same time, but I'm going to write 5G and terahertz, surveillance, and unzip. So I remember, because those are things, I actually had that up for a long time, and then I had one of those browser, everything crashed, lose it all, and it doesn't come back. So I lost all that, but we can dig that up again, because that was some pretty interesting research that connected some dots that made me go, oh my. And of course, we're launching a lot of this, not only over Africa and brown people, but now, remember, Google changed the name of the game. They were going to launch a lot of those balloons over Africa, and at the 11th hour, they decided to launch them over the United States. So I think they stepped the game up. So let's get back to this pre-crime vehicle with artificial intelligence and face identification, as well as license plate recognition in China, that could very easily be put into some sort of HD drone at some point in the future, or do geolocation on you once the car identifies you and take you out. This vehicle is scheduled to be road tested in Hangzhou when the coastal city hosts the G20 summit. Oh, God. Later this year. Yes. So the G20 is being held in China. We ran across that in a story we read yesterday. I thought it was pretty interesting. And I think that was in June, if I am not mistaken. June 26th to 28th. This story was from May, I believe March. So that did already happen. So all the rich billionaires and all the big countries in the G20 have seen this new crime-fighting car, like the Batmobile. China, of course, is not the only country hoping to put a mobile face-scanning police unit on the road in the near future. Who else? Oh, Erdogan. Whoop. Turkey. Turkey's Ekin Technology announced in November that it had signed in a deal with who? The Abu Dhabi Police Department. Oh. To provide Abu Dhabi Police with 250 of its Ekin police cars, which the company says are also able to read faces at high speeds. Guys, this whole global stage that we are on right now is an absolute, utter illusion. These people, I saw the one time there was a big global drone conference going on, and it was in some place like Saudi Arabia or Qatar. I think it was Qatar. And I was like, what? And you had defense contractors from the entire globe were all there. And it's commonplace. They've been doing this stuff for years. Oh, let's find out the new killing technology with artificial intelligence. Buy lots of it. We got places like Turkey, of course, chummy to us, building tech like this. Israel, the whole collaboration program in neuroscience, and we found out Israel had that pre-crime software. We read that by looking at your genetics that make up your face to determine whether or not some of your genetic traits mean that you could statistically be a criminal, as well as the emotion reading tattoos. Let's take this a step further. So we've been reading about mental illness. Of course, we have shootings everywhere. And oh my God, self-radicalized terrorists. There's a lot of crazy people out there. We got rid of some of the HIPAA laws, and now you can be reported to the machine. We're going to have all this artificial intelligence technology out here soon to give us a hand in taking care of crazy people. Well, don't worry about it, because Yale scientists, I think we started this story last week or the week before. We never finished it. June 11th, 2016, Yale scientists, so right here in our own backyard, are developing a machine that extracts images from your mind. So leave it to the Brain Initiative. Not only are they able to create artificial synapses and DNA 3D printing artificial synapses that mimic human brains as supercomputers and read your emotions. Not only is your brain print as individualistic as a fingerprint for identification purposes, but now Yale scientists are working on machines that can extract images from your brain. How long is it going to be before they can do that remotely with facial recognition police cars? I mean, this is just absolute insanity. There will be nowhere to run and hide. Back 30 years ago, when I used to have that recurring nightmare about those flying little triangles shooting lasers, and I thought were UFOs, who now, when I look back at it, I was like, oh, maybe those were drones. The only place that you can run and hide in that dream was in the basement behind the walls underground. And I hate to tell you, but 30 years ago, it made no sense, but it sure does now. A device that might make our internal monologues a thing of the past, and we read about that too, where they literally now can read, and that was another Israeli company. They can read, listen to, teletype, and now they're going to make it so it actually speaks a voice, that little voice in your head. scientists have been able to extract that little voice in your head. Guys, that little voice in your head, we've talked about that before. That is like the last bastion of freedom. Being able to use that sandbox you call a brain to be able to determine what's right and what's wrong, what's moral and what's not, to work through scenarios, to make decisions. Right, we read about that orbital cortex. They now are able to watch in real time. People, I don't know if they actually did it on people yet, but they absolutely were doing it on animals. Watching in real time the decision-making process being made and weighing options. Well, it's gotten beyond that, guys. You won't even have to commit a crime. All you have to do is think unclean thoughts. Like the old days of the Catholic Church. Don't think about boobies. Right? That's the old school. Now, don't think about insurgency. We caught you. Time to go to the brig. I'm going to put you into some sort of mind prison. We read about that too way back when, where they could make like an hour seem like 10,000 years in jail in your brain in the future. All right, a device that may make our internal monologues a thing of the past was just announced as being under development right here in the United States. This eavesdropping machine can actually hear, so this is, hear the little voices inside of your head and make them known to others. This potentially dangerous mind-reading device is being developed by an American and a German scientist at Yale. Now, can I just ask you guys, come on, what kind of irony is here that we have Israelis in Israel working on electronic tattoos? Not only that, but electronic tattoos that read emotion. And now we have a German scientist. I'm working on mind-reading devices for interrogation. This is just beyond sick. We got IBM's involved with the shape-shifting immune system and the Universal ID program in India. This is not cool, guys. We got a problem, Clyde. Like a big problem. Potentially dangerous mind-reading device is being developed by American and German scientists at Yale, with a study led by Professor Marvin Chun and designed by Alan Cohen, a PhD student at the university. And their efforts are being combined to develop an advanced instrument that turns your secret thoughts into readable text and recognizable imagery. As stated recently in the Daily Mail, scientists on the project have the goal of reproducing audible speech. Yeah, they want to reproduce audible speech using our inaudible brain functions, and they want to do it in real time. And that's what I was saying. They already can turn it into text, what your brain, that little voice is saying in your head, and pictures. And now they want to turn it into auditory MP3s. That'll just like text to speech, speak it out for you, and do it live in real time. Electrodes, of course, are placed directly on the head, at least not in the head, correlating with speech and language centers of the brain. And this is all done while the subject is awake and alert. Electrical responses to various stimuli are monitored and measured by scientists and then matched with computer-generated signals which correspond to distinct speech patterns. And while these electrodes and underdeveloped technology currently limit the application for the device, scientists are busily looking for loopholes. Yale, of course, has teamed up with UC Berkeley, yes, on the West Coast, where Jennifer Dauda is from, and a lot of other mad science technology, to determine how hearing, speaking, and imaging overlap in the brain, with Professor Robert Knight leading the team of researchers. Robert Knight stated recently in an interview, quote, "We want to develop an implantable device." Implants are normalized now. They showed it on National Geographic, remember? They can cure all kinds of disease. We want to develop an implantable device that decodes the signals that occur in the brain when we think about a word. And then we turn these signals into a sound file that can be reproduced buy a speech device. So with the device being planned for future implementation, is it not illogical to wonder what the real agenda is? Well, I'd say yes. I'd say we've been on this for a while, and I'd say I can't even believe that they really are trying to create this, and nobody is standing up going, what the fuck, Chuck? Why do you need to be able to not only read my thoughts and my secret thoughts, and I could guarantee you they'll be able to do it from a distance as well. Right now, it's, put on the little ECG cap or, the brainwave reading remote control device, because they have those for the keyboard and the mouse, and they have mind-controlled drones. You could do all that. Don't think that can't read other areas of the brain, especially if there was some strategically placed antenna to be able to read the frequencies. They could 3D print anything now, 3D print new antennas. I'm sure that is not any longer in the realm of science fiction. Says our ultimate goal is to create a small device that can be used in everyday life. Oh, Big Brother will be with you at all times. This device might sound like a dream come true for some, but for others, the potential that this device might get placed in the wrong hands is more than frightening. I would have to say so. I would have to say that this is the march down that final path of complete and utter. I mean, think about it. They're going to be able to diagnose you in an instant. I think we saw something about that yesterday, just on your brain patterns, and tell whether or not you're mentally ill. We will be identified as defective humans. And we will be medicated, and we will be fixed, and we will be cured, because they will be able to cure us. And if you thought it couldn't get any worse, well, think again. I wanted to make sure you guys went 11 days without dystopia. I got to fill that dystopia cuppeth back uppeth. Scientists now read a lot about this from DARPA. This now came out in a mainstream publication called Big Think. This is where, wannabe couch watching, TV watching junkies think that they get their science from. Scientists discover now how to implant false memories. So, don't worry about it. You had some horrible childhood, man. Your mom yelled at you a lot because you couldn't keep your room clean and told you how important that would be for you someday when you got older because you know how to be organized. Yes, well, that caused trauma, little Johnny. So, you know what? Come right in, 1995, and we'll just give you a zip and a zap, and all those bad memories will be gone. We'll insert a new memory of you being at Nana and Grandpa's summer cottage fishing for trout. How's that sound? All right, MIT researchers Steve Ramirez, probably Ramirez, don't laugh at me, and Zhu Liu recently made history when they successfully implanted a false memory into the mind of a mouse. And we read about DARPA doing that. It wouldn't surprise me that MIT has done it as well. We may have even read that story. We've been covering removing and implanting memories for a couple of years now, on and off. The proof, and they used these photo optic, I think they called them, cells, where they reacted to light, and they put them into the brain so the neurons would react to light, and they could use these flashes of light. They could use electrical shocks. They were doing all kinds of stuff. The proof was a simple reaction from a rodent, but the implications are vast. They placed the furry little creature inside of a metal box, and he froze, displaying a distinct fear response. And, of course, they love to elicit fear. And they gave that poor little mousey scary memories. The mouse was reacting as if he had received an electrical shock there when he hadn't at all. Think about that. That could also be a new means for extracting information from you. They could make your body react as if they'd been shocking you all day. They haven't done any damage, but your nervous system thinks that you're being shocked and reacts as such to make traumatic feelings and emotions. And when you've been all interrogated and they've read all those secret little voices in your head, they'll be able to just set it back and remove your traumatic memories. This is just beyond believable, even. But it is. This is all real. So, what makes this research more riveting is that their success was considered a long shot. The hypothesis was that not only could they identify these neurons associated with encoding memory, but they could essentially rewrite a memory. And experts say that this is an impressive feat, which helps uncover more of the mystery of how the memory operates. Yes, again, all purposes of this national and international brain initiative, and why this is so pivotal to everything that's going on right now. I've been trying to connect these dots together between the Brain Project and 21st Century Medicine, Precision Medicine Act, the Microbiome Initiative, the Supercomputing Initiative, the Data Storage Initiative, and tech billionaires wanting to find ways to make you live forever. Step right up. This is all a part of that same machine to control and manipulate all of biology. Neuroscientists have considered such a possibility for years, but they never thought that this kind of experiment could actually work. Well, lucky them. This breakthrough was possible due to research out of Oxford University, where we find a lot, including Stephen Hawking's over there, which discovered exactly how short-term memories are transferred into long-term memory. But the MIT researchers took it in an entirely new direction. Memories are actually stored in not one area, but certain groups of neurons called engrams. And Ramirez and Liu, who came together in 2010, designed a new method for exploring live brains to identify specific engrams. Neuroscientists use a newly minted technique called optogenetics. There you go, ding, using the flashes of light. They employ lasers to stimulate genetically engineered cells designed to react to them. And yes, those are cells that react to flashes of light. So this must have been funding from DARPA. This was the DARPA project, and MIT is one of the places that they sprinkled that money. The scientists and their team injected a biochemical cocktail into the brains of special genetically engineered mice, and the cocktail contained a gene with a light-sensitive protein. This was injected into the dentate gyrus, an area in the hippocampus where memory is encoded. And then they implanted filaments, yes, those little nanofilaments, into the mice's skulls. And this acted as a conduit for the laser. And the researchers found that they could reactivate a memory by flooding certain neurons with laser light. And now that they knew which engrams were associated with fear, they set up an experiment to test it. And after injecting the cocktail into the same region in the brain, they placed the mouse inside a metal box. And this box was a safe box. And the mouse was able to explore for a whole 12 minutes with no problems. But then on the next day, it was put in a different box, but received an electrical shock instead. And these two different boxes were different in color, shape, scent. But the following day, that same mouse was placed inside the safe box again, and it remembers it as safe. But as soon as they activated the foot-shocking memory using a laser in its brain, it initiated the fear. So there are many positive implications, yeah, right, like taking the bite out of PTSD, depression, or other psychiatric disorders. Ding, ding, ding. Let's experiment on those crazy people after we've identified half the population is crazy through our smart apps. But there may be an application as well for Alzheimer's and reversing lost memories to disease. It even holds promise for those suffering from substance abuse, allowing them to forget their addiction. So all you addicted people too, we can cure you. But of course, there's negative connotations. How about, even though we have painful memories, they define us, and they are part of who we are today. Do we really want them messing with our memories? Because I don't think so. What about implanting false memories in a witness to change the outcome of a trial? Well, good question. False memory implantation may lead to a new and ruthless form of witness tampering. And there are implications, of course, also in state control and even sovereignty of one's own mind. And I would think the sovereignty of one's own mind would be something to fight to the death for. How can you give up? That is, honestly, they're taking away the ability to drive with music loud and the pedal to the metal. The last place to be safe is in your own mind, and they'll be able to read it all, take what they want, and then mix it up because, Johnny, your memories are defective. You don't quite remember history the way it actually happened. Let us cure you. We're going to put you through the re-education camp, Johnny. Just a few little zips and zaps. It won't hurt a bit. And we're going to upload that brand new history book that we've been working on of the way history will be remembered for generations on. And make sure you pass this on to your offspring, because, Johnny, this is the way it's going to be. And as I am finishing out the show here, I did want to hit this story about erasing unpleasant memories using genetic therapy. Yes, they have genetic therapy to erase unpleasant memories. And how interesting that this just does not want to load. This is in medicalexpress.com. Here we go. Erasing unpleasant memories with a genetic switch. Oh! Researchers in Belgium and in Germany have managed to erase unpleasant memories in mice using a genetic switch. Dementia, accidents, or other traumatic events can make us lose memories formed before the injury and the onset of disease. But researchers from the universities have now shown that some memories can also be erased when a particular genetic switch is turned off. Again, you know what? Let's make sure that nobody remembers Hillary Clinton's crimes after she's become president. I mean, I'm just thinking about all the ways that they could use this easily removable and replaceable memory technology that they are working on. Easily readable little voices in your head to find out what you know and then change those. The team trained mice that have been genetically modified in one single gene called the neuroplastin, and this gene, which is investigated by only a few groups in the world, is very important for brain plasticity in humans. Changes in the regulation of this gene have been linked to decreased intellectual abilities in schizophrenia. Put on a seatbelt because it's still basic research, but we are...
The Anti-Media